Incredible. The Carolina Panthers have secured a victory over the Los Angeles Rams in what can only be described as a monumental contest. A truly epic triumph for Carolina, and I will be the first to acknowledge that fact. I've expressed throughout the entirety of this season that I'm completely perplexed by the Carolina Panthers. What is one supposed to make of them? They managed to defeat the Rams, yet they appeared utterly hapless and overmatched against the San Francisco 49ers. They are simply the most erratic and inconsistent franchise in the league. The question becomes, how does one rationally analyze them? Consequently, from my perspective, the primary narrative emerging from this result is not necessarily centered on the Carolina Panthers themselves. It is fundamentally about the Los Angeles Rams, because they are the unit presumed to be the premier team in the NFL. They are the top-ranked squad, competing for the coveted #1 overall playoff seed. They were presented with an excellent opportunity to create further separation from the Philadelphia Eagles in that race. Now, with Chicago and Seattle, who play later, in the mix, this was a contest that carried immense significance and was, on paper, clearly a winnable game for Los Angeles. Matthew Stafford, the current frontrunner for the Most Valuable Player award, committed 3 turnovers. 3 critical giveaways, 2 of which were absolutely catastrophic. The interception returned for a touchdown, and then the fumble when the offense was well within field goal range, positioned to at minimum tie the game with a field goal or potentially take the lead with a touchdown. It was a positively devastating sequence of events. This outcome serves as a perfect illustration of why one cannot evaluate a player or a team on a strictly game-by-game basis, correct? There is a substantial contingent of Stafford supporters and Rams enthusiasts on this platform specifically who consistently flood the comment section whenever a quarterback like Jalen Hurts loses, or Josh Allen loses, or Sam Darnold loses, proclaiming, "See, he's a fraud. He turned the ball over 4 times. Haha, he's terrible. Get over it." So, the inevitable question becomes, how does one reconcile that stance with Matthew Stafford's performance in this game? How do you square that circle? His stat line included 2 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, a passer rating of 85.9, and that crippling fumble. What is the appropriate response to that? It's not as if Stafford, even setting aside the turnovers, orchestrated a spectacular performance. Puka Nacua was out there manufacturing incredible receptions, yet the overarching takeaway from this game is not, see, Matthew Stafford is overrated. Matthew Stafford isn't good. Matthew Stafford shouldn't be the MVP. Although I personally believe Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP, he leads the entire league in both receptions and carries, which is absolutely insane. But that's a separate discussion, especially as the 49ers are poised to win as well. Everything is in a state of chaos within the NFC right now. Everything is completely up in the air. But again, full credit must be given to Carolina. Bryce Young delivered the crucial pass to take the lead, and then another to effectively ice the game. Their ground attack was formidable, 40 attempts for 164 yards. They ran the football with a relentless, unapologetic attitude, and the Los Angeles defense struggled to contain it. Furthermore, when the situation demanded that Bryce Young make some key throws, he did exactly that. It's not as if Young played a spectacular, flawless game himself, but he made the necessary plays. This will undoubtedly be a fascinating game to rewatch. Honestly, it's one of those matchups where knowing the final score in advance actually enhances the viewing experience, allowing you to focus on the pivotal moments. Los Angeles was penalized only once for 5 yards, a false start, I believe, and they reached the red zone 6 times, converting 4 of those opportunities into scores. The Panthers only penetrated the red zone once and failed to convert that single trip, and yet they still managed to defeat the squad, largely considered the best in the league, 31-28. The weather conditions became somewhat erratic and unstable, which is definitely a factor that can pose challenges for a quarterback like Matthew Stafford. He hasn't always performed at his peak in imperfect, adverse conditions. This underscores precisely why securing home field advantage is so critically important for Los Angeles. You're talking about potentially having to play in cold, hostile environments in January. This illuminates a significant problem for the Rams within their division race. If they fail to win the division, they could very likely plummet to the 5th seed, or perhaps even lower. Honestly, given how the season is currently unfolding, the drop could be steeper. It could mirror the situation with Detroit and Minnesota from a recent season, where the choice is essentially the 1st seed or falling all the way to the 5th. That scenario means being on the road for the entirety of the playoffs, potentially for every single game, unless you get fortunate and other higher-seeded teams are eliminated to perhaps reclaim a home game. And considering the other potential NFC contenders, Philadelphia, Chicago, Carolina again, those are all outdoor stadiums with the potential for severe winter weather. This very matchup could be a first-round playoff rematch. Everything is so profoundly uncertain right now. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic for the drama of the league. If you had asked me beforehand, who do you think will win this game? I would have said, the Rams, obviously. How do you think Stafford will perform? I would have said, great. Would I have predicted Stafford turning the ball over 3 times? Probably not. It was an unlikely scenario. And yet, despite those self-inflicted wounds, they were still in a position to potentially win this football game. When you watch the Carolina Panthers play, you do not come away thinking, that is a complete powerhouse team. Bryce Young is in complete command and exudes calmness and comfort. This was clearly a game plan centered on run, 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 run. And again, he made some nice throws when required, but there's no overarching sense that Bryce Young is suddenly piloting this team to make serious noise in the NFC playoffs. That is certainly not my personal takeaway. This is precisely why I stated that, honestly, if we're being serious, the Carolina Panthers are currently the most interesting team in the NFL. They are not the best. They are not the worst. They are the most fascinating and unpredictable. If we survey the league's landscape, they are the team with the giant question mark hovering above them. You genuinely have no idea which version will show up on any given Sunday. They just defeated the Los Angeles Rams, a squad that has been elite all season long. And Matthew Stafford, who has been brilliant, could not stop giving the football away, and that proved to be the decisive factor. 3 turnovers, you lose by 3 points. A devastating fumble that, at the very minimum, cost them a chance to tie the contest. It's a profoundly tough loss for Los Angeles at this juncture. As I said, a defeat like this leaves the door wide open, absolutely wide open, concerning who will ultimately secure the number 1 seed, who will claim home field advantage, and who will even win this division. I'm recording this prior to the Seattle Seahawks game. One would assume Seattle will win their contest, but who knows? Perhaps Sam Darnold has his own 3 or 4 turnover performance. The point is, everything remains volatile. This game also feeds directly into the ongoing MVP discussion, since we as a collective tend to place all our eggs in the basket of the quarterback whose team keeps winning, only to immediately dismiss him as soon as he loses or has a multi-turnover game. It happened with Dak Prescott. He loses, he's done. It happened with others. Every quarterback has been summarily cut down. So now, does a player like Drake May potentially take a step forward in that conversation? I genuinely believe we should dismantle the quarterback-centric notion of the award and give a player like Christian McCaffrey the credit he deserves. But we'll reserve that conversation for a different video entirely. This game stands as another perfect example. As someone who believes Matthew Stafford is an elite, special, and awesome quarterback, you cannot draw definitive, sweeping conclusions from a single game or a solitary performance, because this was, by any measure, not a great game for Matthew Stafford. You can point directly to his errors as a primary cause for this loss. I am not in the business of assigning blame to a single player, as that's not how I operate or discuss the sport. I'm not stating, Stafford, you cost them the game, you are the reason they lost. However, if you are the type of fan or analyst who engages in those conversations and blames Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, or Sam Darnold for their team's losses, then you are logically compelled to apply that same standard to Matthew Stafford for this performance. For all those individuals who consistently flood the comments with those very talking points, this is the dilemma you must now wrestle with. This is the inconsistency you must confront. It's the same principle I reference with Lamar Jackson's supporters when they face Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. When Jackson beats them in the regular season, the chorus is, "See, we told you Josh Allen isn't that good. Lamar is king." Then, in the playoffs, Josh Allen wins, and the narrative becomes complicated. How does one make sense of that? You cannot extract all-encompassing conclusions from a singular data point. There must be nuance. There must be context. In this specific instance, Bryce Young won the game. His final numbers were 15 completions on 20 attempts for 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 147.1. Does anyone actually believe he is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford? No. If you watch that game objectively, even setting aside the catastrophic turnovers, fumbles happen to quarterbacks like Stafford, interceptions occur even when you've thrown very few all season, and you pose the question, If you knew nothing else about these two quarterbacks and had to choose one based solely on this game, who would you take? The answer would still almost universally be Matthew Stafford. Therefore, evaluation cannot be solely about the box score. It cannot be solely about the win-loss outcome. It cannot even be solely about a string of unfortunate events. You have to look beyond those surface-level metrics. This game is an awesome textbook example of that principle, albeit an example Los Angeles Rams fans would undoubtedly prefer not to experience. But from the perspective of a football analyst, from my personal viewpoint, it serves as yet another perfect illustration of the fundamental issues with this reactive game-to-game analysis. We can observe this pattern clearly in the MVP discourse. Just because a player loses a game does not automatically mean he should be ejected from the MVP conversation. Although, admittedly, that has been the pattern all season long. It's all incredibly interesting material, profoundly interesting, but those are simply my personal reflections and observations. I would absolutely be delighted to hear your own. What are all of your thoughts concerning the Los Angeles Rams falling to Bryce Young and the Panthers? Who, if anyone, do you assign blame to? Is Stafford to blame? Or is this simply a tough loss against a team that is consistently undervalued and unpredictable? I don't have a definitive answer. Please let me know your perspectives in the comment section below. I read every single comment that is posted, so whether you are in full agreement with me or you fundamentally disagree, I want to hear from you. Let's ignite some engaging discussions. Let's engage in some spirited debates. But ultimately, let's simply enjoy the experience and have a great time discussing the sport we love. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. We are in the process of cultivating a truly wonderful community here, and I would absolutely be thrilled to have you as a part of it. My goal is to build something that we all feel a genuine connection to, something that we are truly enthusiastic and proud to be involved with, and I believe we are making significant progress toward achieving that objective. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely and substantially assists with visibility within the platform's algorithm. Thank you so very much for your time and engagement. I'll see you next time.